It's ideas that turn into beliefs if they're not questioned. And beliefs are the things that drive your soul. So what's happening now, I see in myself, this fracturing of society. We are unable to trust our gut because of all the swirling bad information that is being quelled and not being able to be questioned in society.
Michelle Pollino, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thanks for inviting me. I was very excited.
I'm really excited to get into your article and forthcoming memoir, The Fracturing. But first, why don't you tell us a little bit about your journey as a journalist and a writer?
It's been a wild ride. I started out in college. I was all over the place. I was a psych major for a bit. And then somebody said, you should go hang out at the radio station. You've got a tremendous voice. And I was like, really? Like radio? That's a job? That's a thing? And I went to the radio station and cracked open the mic and fell in love with my own voice. And the reach that I had, it was kind of extraordinary. And it was just I was immediately confident in a way that I didn't understand. It felt so natural. It just felt like me. I know people have weird things with their voice, but I think I have always spoken from here, never anywhere else. It's always been from here. And so that, again, it's just like I was just being me, and it felt real, and I felt alive, and it was beautiful. And so so I was going through college, and that's when I started to kind of think about journalism, switch majors, and then I immediately got a job. I switched schools like around 5 times because I had so many interests. I just couldn't keep it straight. And so I moved. I started out in Philadelphia. I was born and raised in Philadelphia. It's very important to know about my background because it's very much me. And I went out to San Diego State University. My mother was out there. She had left when I was like 18. She was a single mom. As soon as I graduated high school, she's like, I'm out of here. I'm done. I'm going to live with your uncle in San Diego. And while in college in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, just outside Philadelphia, I got into a little bit of trouble. Got into a lot of bit of trouble. And, I went back to Philly with my dad, bailed me out of jail. And I got into a bit of trouble, and my mom's like, why don't you just come out to San Diego? It's so beautiful here. And so I did. While out in San Diego, I studied journalism a bit, and I got my first internship, and it was at KCBQ radio. And I was immediately hired. They just loved my voice. They loved my energy. So they just hired me. And I said to my mom, why am I going to college? I got a job. See you later. So I left college. And next thing I knew, I was doing traffic in an airplane and learning to fly above Miramar Air Base, out of Miramar Airport in San Diego. And I'm like, this is the greatest job ever. So now I'm a traffic reporter. So I wanted to go back to Philadelphia. I packed my things. I missed my friends. They were all getting married. Went back to Philly. Got a job immediately, again, as a traffic reporter. And my career just took off. And from there, I landed at several radio stations as the sidekick news girl. If you remember those things, those archaic things. And I I then eventually landed at a news station, CBS in Philadelphia, CBS Radio, and I was a beat reporter. Then I ended up at NPR. I was anchoring next to, I was in the same, I loved it, in the same building as Terry Gross. And I I was like, oh my God, Terry Gross. Oh, had the biggest crush on Terry Gross. You can't even imagine. And everything just flowed with radio. It was just everything just came together. And next thing I know, I'm a reporter, and that's how it all began.
That sounds like quite the journey, Michelle. And how did you... Yeah, let's go. So how did you then arrive at this place where you discovered the political divide in the United States, and what compelled you to write The Fracturing is Necessary?
I think it was around 2017. I got to Fox, and it was when Donald Trump was elected. And I was here in LA. I came out to LA and found a job at Fox. They were looking for an entertainment reporter. I was like, yeah, and I never watched Fox, but what the hell, And I got the job, and I'm out here, and around 2017 there was a vibe shift in the lesbian community. And 2017, 2018. And the shift was really dramatic. It felt like they started to lose it a bit. I don't know how else to, with Trump's presidency, I saw such a strange shift in people and how they reacted to him. And me being at Fox, I all of a sudden became a target. It's almost like they didn't see me anymore. They saw, I don't know what they saw. Maybe a microphone I don't know. I don't know what they saw, but there was a lot of attack. I didn't understand what was happening with the country. It was becoming Facebook was rising, social media was rising, and so was the temperature, to the point where people were not nice. I mean, I hate saying that, not nice, but they were really extraordinarily mean to one another. And all of a sudden I became a target, and I'm like, whoa, slow down here. I'm still the same person. What's going on? And this hit a crescendo in 2020, like I had never seen before. When the pandemic hit, right before that, I was attacked by a bunch of lesbians online, and it was pretty cruel. And I think that attack really sent me inside and really hurt me so much. I was like, geez, who are these people? Why would they say such awful things? And I just started to retreat from everything, retreat from people, retreat from gatherings. I was so afraid to be attacked again. And it all escalated in 2020. But that's when I started to write. That's when I started to go inwards and say, oh my God, this feeling of shutting myself down, this feeling of not speaking, not connecting to people, it reminded me of another time when I came out, well, when I couldn't come out, in the early 90s, when I fell in love with a woman, and I had such kind of a homophobia. I didn't want to hurt my mom. It's not like anybody around me was Christian or any of that. I had a really great mom, but I felt indebted to her. Like I wanted to give her that life that she wanted for me, marrying a man and having kids. I felt like I kind of owed it to her because, she single-handedly raised me, and I was a handful. I was a handful. And and then there was something in me that as I remember, as I started to write this memoir, I started to see what I did to myself. Now that heartbreak is at the center of this fracturing. That heartbreak, that loss of that woman that I just loved her so much, and I just left her one day because I had caused myself to have like a mental breakdown because I algorithmically, in my head, convinced myself from a child, anytime I saw a girl that I liked, that I couldn't have her because I had to give my mother the life that I knew she wanted for me, that would make her really happy. So that algorithmic mantra stayed deep inside me, and it was never questioned or critically explored. And it caused a deep fracturing of my mind. And it was the fracturing that led me out the door of that woman's house. And that heartbreak that I felt then, of stuffing all my feelings inside for years, was reignited during those Trump years. And that loss of connection with friends, loss of connection with loved ones, drove me to deeply explore the loss of connection with each other in our society. And it led me to write this book and really kind of explore how our minds are shaped, how without critical thought, without revealing everything in ourselves in conversations with others, we sooner or later we will reveal those ideas that we had inside of us through hurting others, because they're bad ideas. And it's ideas that turn into beliefs if they're not questioned. And beliefs are the things that drive your soul. So what's happening now, I see in myself, this fracturing of society. We are unable to trust our gut because of all the swirling bad information that is being quelled and not being able to be questioned in society. I think Greg Lukianoff has a new book with Ricky Schlott, The Canceling of the American Mind. People in fear, people will hide their thoughts, will hide their beliefs. And when those beliefs stay in your mind and are unquestioned, you don't have a guide. Your guide is off. Your soul is off. Am I making any sense?
Yeah, I've just got a million questions now.
Okay, so there it is.
Oh God, there's so much there. I want to read out something that because you wrote an article for Fair in the Arts. I'll link this all in the show notes. But at the beginning, you said, the lies you dismantled in order to fully accept yourself as a gay woman, have been rebranded and are being preached to LGBT youth as the truth. I'm assuming those lies that you dismantled were what you just said about believing that you needed to be a man, be married to a man, and this fracturing that was happening inside of you. Can we just start, like, how did your journey begin, and how did you start to dismantle those lies?
Yeah, that's a good question. Reading, listening to podcasts, critically challenging these ideas. I didn't for the longest time challenge that idea. I just stuffed it down. I said, I'll just get over her. It'll not be a big deal. I'll just push it down, just like everything else in my life. And I never questioned it ever again. And I just went on, and I had to come out as gay after I left her, because I was just like, I mean, I have to. There's no way I could go back now. I mean, there's no way. Although in the back of my mind, I still was like, I'm going to have to do that for my mom. So I just forged ahead for years with all this entire story submerged inside me. And it wasn't until this reckoning in the country that I started to critically think about that time period, critically think about what I did to myself in an algorithmic way in my childhood in order to fit in to the culture at the time. Because, I mean, this was Christ, the 70s. There weren't any lesbians around. None. I mean, we knew Jodie Foster and what's her name? Buddy on Family. Like, we knew, but they weren't out. None of that was around. This is what I kind of look at in society today. I'm like, my God, like we're losing lesbians. We're losing this intergenerational connection that I grew up, like when I was in college, the first time I met a lesbian, I was like, oh, okay. All right. I hung out with all the older lesbians. I was like, oh, these girls are hot. Like there was an intergenerational connection that I was making, and I got to hear stories, and we connect through stories, and that was inside me for the first time right around college. Suppressed it again, moved on, and then I met this woman, and I was like, fuck, there's no way I can hold this in anymore. And it just burst out. And this was like the beginning of something extraordinary in my body. It didn't happen again till this political divide, till I felt suppressed, till I felt my voice was being squashed in some way. And then I started to see this was the breaking point. This gender ideology stuff for me, that was the breaking point where I was like, no. I knew so many lesbians, myself included, that wanted to be a boy as a child. I prayed every night so I could be with that girl. There wasn't any other reason. It was that girl across the street that I adored. And I keep thinking about all these women now in the younger generation. I go to parties again now. We're having parties again. I'm venturing out. And there's a lot more trans women or trans men in the community. And I'm like, we're losing lesbians. And I can't connect to them. I can't connect. There's something missing. And I was the great and wonderful and wise Kathleen Stock. I asked her about this what's happening in the community, and she said to me, "Well, we never really worked a community, the gay and lesbian community." She's like, "We never really were a community. We came together for our rights." But if you think about it, we don't really mix and mingle that much. And we don't. And that is the truth. Like, when I go to parties, there's maybe one or two gay boys, but there's about 30 gay women. Um, Growing up, going to gay bars, lesbian bars. Why would I go to gay bars? I don't want to go to gay bars. I want to go to lesbian bars. It's predominantly all women. There was every once in a while, there was the obligatory autogynephile in the corner, you know, with, just sipping, in the wig and really bad wig, just sipping cocktails. I remember always engaging with that person because I always found it curious. I'm like, why are you here? What's like, but there was always one or two in the lesbian bar, but we had a vast array of beautiful women that were stunning. Butch lesbians, the soft butches, the gorgeous, hard femmes. Like, it was incredible. But now it seems our culture is dying. And that really kind of broke me. And it's continuing to divide a lot of people. And that flag incident would happen with my partner and I. Like, she wanted to put out um, for Pride Month, a trans flag. And I'm like, no, that's not what I want. I want the rainbow flag, the one that we fought hard for our rights for. That one.
Can I just ask, and perhaps I'm playing devil's advocate here, but I suppose I want to know, because there are a lot of lesbians, I might be one of them, that are staunch in this way of like, we're being pushed to the side. But isn't that sort of the natural progression of like rights? Like, once one group gets their rights and is elevated in society, we sort of do push them to the side to start elevating more quote unquote marginalized people. Yeah, I suppose what I'm trying to say is what is the issue with including all these different groups of people under this one umbrella? What is at the core of the issue for you?
Well, I think that gay and lesbian people, we're biologically, we're same sex attracted.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that trans and all the other categories, it's totally different. It's completely different. Many, I dated a trans woman, gosh, back in the early aughts, and
Really?
yes,
What was that like? I'm sorry.
well, first of all, I didn't know.
Oh,
We
shit.
met
Okay.
on we met on Planet Out. Again, it's not that I love. This is what I mean. I support trans rights totally, but I think it's a separate category. It's a separate category, and that's where I think we're not understanding. I don't know how the trans people got put under our umbrella, but it's entirely different from being gay and lesbian. And so I'll explain. I'll tell you about that night. And does that answer your question?
Which one? No, I think so. I think so. But carry on, carry on.
Okay. Oh, you want to get this story out of me? This is a crazy story. We met on Planet Out, and we met at a restaurant. And I was still in Philadelphia, and I'm walking into this restaurant, and there she is. I was like, "Oh, you're really big. You're really..." And she was tall. She was tall. She was really tall with broad shoulders. And very pretty. She's very pretty. She's a well-known person now. But we got to the bar and started talking. And here's the incredible thing, and here's the difference. We started talking about our coming out stories because that's what gay women did. Okay. And so I asked her about hers, and she said, "Well, mine's a little different." I'm like, "How different could it be? Tell me about it." And she's like, "Well, I used to be a man." I'm like, "That was quite different. That's quite different." And I was so interested, as I'm always so interested in everything. And she was really, I adore her. And so we dated. We dated for a minute. And in the end, she didn't feel... There's a femininity that I feel with lesbians that is unspoken. I don't care what you look like on the outside, but there's a gorgeous femininity that is there, that is so sensual. It's so beautiful to me. And that's what I connect to. She didn't have that and I had to, I told her, I'm like, "There's something missing here. Don't know what it is." And we stayed friends. We remained friends. Although she might not. I mean, she hasn't returned my emails in a while.
Was she like okay with like what did she respond like?
She was so cool.
Okay.
Yeah, we were
Okay.
This was, yeah, she was fine. She was fine. Like we remained friends for a very, very, very long time. I helped her through several breakups. And but there was another thing that she said to me that night that I found to be interesting. And this was the beginning of the, gender and sexuality are mutually exclusive, is what she said to me. Or not mutually exclusive. And I said, well, I said, you're born a man, but you still and you're still attracted to women. I was still breaking this down because this is the first trans woman that I had ever met outside of my cousin when I was 14, what my mom brought home and my stepdad had a meltdown. That's another story altogether. But I was like, and she said, she's like, I said, "But you're still attracted to women. So that's kind of biologically male." Do you know what I mean? And it just gave me pause. It just gave me pause for a minute. It wasn't sitting well with me. But I accepted it because, again, I was still young and learning, and this was all new to me. But I found it very interesting. And I also find it really interesting that a lot of trans women want to be with women, still want to date lesbians.
Yeah, I don't notice that, but maybe it's a. I notice that trans women want to be with gay men, which kind of makes sense. But yeah, I mean, I don't know.
That's interesting. That's interesting.
Yeah, I mean, they're probably just different anecdotes, right, from our own personal experiences. But it's hard to know, like, what is happening out there. I suppose I've recently back on the dating market. I don't know. My experience is, there aren't. Yeah, you just go on the dating apps, and people seem to be open if they're trans, and if you're not attracted to that, that's fine. You just don't initiate. The thing I hate is that is seen by some people as bigotry, where I agree with what you said before. Like, there is a femininity about woman, and it must be internal, because it doesn't matter how butch she is or how, like, feminine on the outside. Like, there is, it's I mean, I always want to say it's the body parts that are attractive, which makes me a lesbian. But then some people say that's just a fetish. I'm sure it's a very small minority, but they're very loud that say that. But I don't know what the solutions are here, because we want to treat people with compassion while also just acknowledging our reality as lesbians. I really don't know what the solutions are here.
I don't think anybody knows the solutions. That's why we have to have conversations. That's the point of kind of critically addressing this time period. I think it's really important to talk this through. I mean, I do have several trans men that I adore. And I think they are in the right, like, body, like, now. Like, they look great now to me. I think they're perfect. Like, but I also see a lot of D-sisters, a lot of detransitioners, and that scares me. I read a lot of studies, and that scares me. And I think that we in the community should be talking about it. We have to step up and say, we love you guys. We want you safe. And we absolutely want to fight for your rights. But this is different from same-sex attraction. Same-sex attraction is all about, I love feminine. I like femininity. It's a gorgeous. You can't spray that on. It's insane. You can, like, I can spot a lesbian. Like, I can spot them everywhere. And then when it just, like, and I feel like now when I spot them, and I feel bad. Like, I'm like, how do I connect with these, like, trans men now? Like, these people, like, how do I connect? I want to connect. I just don't know how. I haven't had that experience. We're not sharing intergenerational experiences like I did with the older lesbians that I kind of saw growing up. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, I'm having these conversations online, but I'm just like, one day someone's going to come for me. I don't know how to differentiate between the two, because like I mean, I'm 30 years old, so I'm not, when I was younger, none of this was around. When I came out at 15, it was, tomboy. But I was also told that, like, I always felt like I wasn't worthy of being a woman because I didn't express femininity in the culturally acceptable way. But I just, I can't imagine what path I would have gone down if I was 15 today. But I don't know how to say that without it inadvertently suggesting that transitioning is a bad thing. Do you know what I mean? So I can understand why this upsets people and people get labeled as TERFs and transphobes and bigots. But it's sort of just like, I think most people are wanting to approach this with compassion and just maybe say, let's make sure we're doing the right thing. But even that, it suggests that it's potentially a bad thing to transition. So yeah, I agree with you. We need to have these conversations, but it's just like, how do we approach this with compassion? Because this is what's dividing us.
Yeah, this is what's fracturing us. But I go back to what Kathleen Stock said, like, we were never together. I keep thinking about that. And she's right in a way. But can we do something about that? I think about how we can be and honor like every part of our community. The whole queer thing now, I hate that word. I hate it. I've always hated it.
Why?
Why? What is queer? What is it?
Alternative?
Right.
Everything? Political.
Okay.
Maybe it's political identity.
Yeah. I think it's more political than it is anything else. If you're a lesbian, be a lesbian. If you're gay, be gay. If you're trans, be trans. Why do we got to go? Why do we have to dig up the whole minefield? Like, there's such a beauty in just being who you are without having to damage other people.
I suppose, and maybe I want to go back to, you said, when you were working at Fox News, which my understanding is that's like a conservative news channel, right? Like, and it's unlikely for lesbians to be working at a conservative corporation because
there's plenty. There's plenty.
Okay, all right. I don't know, but maybe these lesbians that attacked you were more left leaning or something. Maybe, why don't you explain, like, what was that attack like? Why were they attacking you for? And was it for these beliefs that you're sort of speaking about now?
No. Yeah, no. It was something that they made political. They attacked me I was online. It was on Facebook, early, like 2017, 2018. Yeah, probably around there. And they were saying something about the news, something about politics, something about Trump. I don't even remember what it was. I was like, maybe, and this is when my mind started to fracture a bit. Maybe if you just maybe look the other side and see if that can give you any, openings to why this is happening. It was so innocuous. It was so absurd. And the one said, "Oh, you just need to shut up." And I was like, "What?" And they're like, "Oh, well, you're a racist." And I was like, "What?" And she's like, "Oh, yeah, well, you wore this Halloween costume 4 years ago and you used the N-word." And I was like, "What?" It was so absurd but that wasn't the worst part about it. The worst part was the pile-on that came afterwards. It was extraordinary watching the like button after she called me that of all these women. And I was like, holy shit. And it was like a million darts going into my body all at once. And I just shrunk away. Like, oh my God, I didn't mean, sorry you felt that way by that costume. Sorry. You know what I mean? And I just shrunk away and stuffed everything inside. didn't want to engage for fear. And that has led me to stay away from the community for for a very long time. Even as, as my partner goes out, and sometimes I'll go with her. Other times I'm just like, ah, man, the slings and arrows. And it's all been because of politics. It's all been because of politics. It all began during the Trump era. And I do think that media has fed a beast that is the minds of society. And we are algorithmically driven. Our minds could go into loops, and those loops are now being produced over and over and over again. Um, I kind of look at society and I think, if you're being told this all the time, you're going to believe it. You're going to believe it. And so everybody that has even an adjacent to it. So if you're told like Trump and Fox are hateful, and so you see this person that is adjacent to this, that person becomes a target. So I had become a target, an unwilling target, an unknowing target, um, for just kind of working there. And it was as I shrunk back and got like just further and further away from these people, I started to go look for people that were questioning what was going on. And that's when I found Fair. That's when I found like Angel, and I started to become friends with Megan Dom and all these public intellectuals that were pushing back against a narrative that was driving us apart. I didn't want to like I didn't want to be a part of I didn't want to be driven into a corner where I felt like I needed to pick a team. My team was Team Human. That's my team. I'm on Team Human, and I didn't. I started to move away from them and move towards people really engaging in the tough conversations, finding ways where we can bridge some gap between um, what is the people that are going to the extremes. I want to see more people not going to the extremes, more people in the middle, more people having conversations that are a bit dangerous, um, but also have a gorgeous thread of humanity through them. I love every single person. I don't care if they hate me. I just, people are the God, I just think they're just so incredibly interesting and have so much to offer. And the more we explore, like we are now being given, we're living in the greatest freaking time in our lives. You're so lucky. I wish I was your age. Like we have never lived in a freer society. Like, there's like, Valerie and I have a beautiful home on a very diverse street. There's gay guys across the street. It's multiracial, multi-ethnic. We live in a one of the biggest cities in the world, and we have freedoms that nobody else in the globe has. But we are becoming dangerously ripped apart by politics, by the media, by um, people driving a narrative. And it's really scary. And I'm here to say, I want to talk. I want to talk about all the things that are ripping us apart, because the only way to heal this is to teach ourselves to critically think. about the things that we've been taught, our beliefs, and how we can move forward with grace and with a purpose to do this together. And I think that we're going to do it. I really believe in humanity, or I wouldn't be out here doing it. I just wouldn't.
I totally agree with everything you're saying. I suppose my question is, what would you say to like individuals who are struggling with all this political division and want to respond with kindness, but we're inherently tribal, right? And I find when we end up resisting ideas, we become combative, and then it's like we divide ourselves. I don't know how to resist these ideas without attacking. Like if I'm being attacked, if someone's going to attack me for, I don't know, talking to you about gender ideology, it's like, it's natural for me to want to be like, well, F you, like I don't know how do I how does someone like me counteract that with.
You ask questions.
Yeah.
You ask questions. Why?
Right.
Well, you ask questions. Questions are the way in. Questions are the greatest way in. Why do you feel that way? Why? Okay, tell me more. Tell me more. And then usually that's how I've been doing it. That's how I have figured out a way in. And really being authentic to your soul. I went out to dinner with a couple lesbians the other night and a couple weeks back. And I was really like, this one person really, really hates Trump. And I'm so curious. Like the hate is seething. Trump doesn't bother me either way. He's a political figure. He is what he is. Like, you know what I mean? Like, but I always kind of want to probe, and I want to make sure she knows that I hear her and I see her. And I think that's really important. Like if you get hate, if I get hate, I usually stop engaging because it's just a hate ball. It's just a hate ball coming at you. And you either got to duck that hate ball because you don't want to swing because then everything explodes and you don't want that. That's kind of gross. And you have just pieces of flesh flying everywhere. You don't want that. You wait. You wait, you come back around. I just let people sit with their hate, and then I come back and start asking questions. I don't ever give up. I'm kind of like a terrier in that sense. Like I keep coming at people because I ultimately believe that love will win out. Maybe because I'm of that generation where we fought and love did win. I am of that generation where we fought for gay men and AIDS, and we came together to fight for our brethren. And then we separated and went our own separate ways in our bars. Maybe we do have to come together again to fight for the rights of trans people, as well as the rights of lesbians and gay people to grow up in a safe space with the knowledge that sexuality defines us, lesbians and gays. Sexuality defines us. And we should honor the parts of our body that are there that we will explore and explode with in the future. Like I keep thinking about that, like the suppression of sexuality in younger kids. Like, let's just wait. Let's take a step. Because puberty brings such beautiful things. Yeah, it's dramatic. Yeah, it sucks. But like, I always think about the exploring that first relationship with a woman. Like that exploration period was so beautiful. And it would have never happened if I was born in another time, because I would have forced my mother to make me a boy. I would have. I would have. I would have. I would have strong armed her. I was a little bit of a tyrant. But and that's what I worry about the most. Like, let's just take a little breath and understand the power of our sexuality. It is extraordinary. It is powerful. And that's why it's uncomfortable. The fracturing right now that's going on is powerful. We have to stop, understand each piece that's being broken off, because we're going to have to rebuild. We're going to have to use those pieces to rebuild into a stronger future, because all these pieces do matter. It's just like in the beginning of time, there was one, and then there was two. Everything fractures and then comes back together. This is the cycle of life.
Speaking of the fracturing, Michelle, when should people expect that book to come out?
I gotta get it to my editor. I gotta get it to my editor. It's when it's taken me like when you're revealing parts of yourselves as a writer, you're like, what you're doing now, Melody, is beautiful, because you're exploring your own thoughts. You're exploring them through, works that you've read or books or people that you've seen. What you're doing is exploring your own thoughts, and that's what writers do. You're just doing it differently. It's a different kind of exercise for you through video. Writing this, I have been peeling away layers that I've laid on myself. And so I had to take breaks in writing this book, because I had so many layers that I had to pull back and say, did it really happen like this? Or do you wish it happened like this? Humans are complicated. Seriously. And when you write, if you're an honest writer, I think Joni Mitchell said this once when she started to become really popular. She's like, I had to really make sure that I was really being honest. That's the most important thing you can bring to the table, is your honesty. And so writing it has taken some time, and it's probably going to be another year before this thing comes, but maybe 6 months. But
I'll
I
be sure
will
to come
for
and
sure.
find you, and I'll come find you and get you back on the show.
Oh, for sure. I will for sure let you know about it. I appreciate it.
All right. Well, I think that's a really good place to end. Where can people find you? Where do you want me to direct people to find your work?
Well, you can always go to the, obviously, Fox, but also, I always drop pieces, in Fair, on Fair Substack. You'll always find, some of my writings there as well. And you can also listen to me on Sirius XM on channel 115. I'm there every day.
Cool. Well, I really appreciate you coming on today. So thank you so much, Michelle.
Well, yeah, thank you. Thank you for inviting me. I enjoyed talking to you.